So today I have a lot of stuff going on in my kitchen. I have some cranberries over here that I'm drying out because they were on sale for, I think it was 2 for $3 this week. So when that happens, good time to buy them up if you like dried cranberries, and dry them in your dehydrator or in your oven. Failing that, if you don't have a dehydrator, put them in your oven for at about 200 degrees. Stick something in there to keep it vented, and then check them every now and then until they're done. Over here, I'm working on some apple cider vinegar, and down here I have some plum wine. Both of these are fermenting. The apple cider vinegar has been fermenting for about 2-3 weeks, I would say, and then the plum wine about a week. So in the next week or two, I'm going to go ahead and take the fruits out of these and just let the liquid sit and finish doing what they do. And I'll have some vinegar and some wine. And over there on the stove, I have some sausage that I'm working on canning. Sausage was on sale last week for $1.98 a roll, so I bought 4 rolls of it, and I just fried it up a little bit just to brown the outsides of it. Put it in a canning jar with some water, and by the time it's done, I'll have really good sausage to make sausage gravy out of. I don't really recommend putting in a whole lot of other stuff, but if you like sausage gravy, that's the easy way to go. You don't have to, everything's ready. All you have to do is take the can of sausage, dump the water out, break it up into a pot with a roux, let it cook for a little while, make some biscuits, and it's pretty simple. It takes about 10 minutes or so, I would say, to make the gravy. About 20 minutes to make some biscuits if you're going to make them at home yourself. If not, buy some Gran's biscuits, pop them in the oven, however you want to do it. So today, I'm going to be doing a couple more things that I have to get done. So yesterday I took what was left of the bread that I made last week, and I cut it up and I made croutons with it. So I have to make some more bread for the kids this week so that they will have something to make sandwiches with. They really like homemade bread. I haven't bought store-bought bread in quite a while now, so I'm just making bread. I make, I think, 2 loaves a week, sometimes 4, but mostly I make 2 loaves a week. So we're going to be making bread, and then I've got some Christmas crafts that I'm going to be working on, so we'll do that. And I think that's about it. I think that's about all I'm going to do today. So I'm going to get my ingredients ready for my bread, and then we'll start making some bread. Okay, so if you've never made bread before, bread is super simple to make. Basic ingredients: you need yeast, you need salt, you need sugar, you need oil, you need water, and you need some flour. Basically, you just throw it all into the bowl and let it rise. I'm just playing, you can't throw it all into a bowl. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to get 2 cups of water, and you want to make sure it's about 110 degrees. That's going to be warm to you. So your body temperature runs about 98 degrees. If it feels warm to you, if you stick your finger in it and it's warm, it's probably about 110 degrees. You don't want it to be so hot that you can't put your finger in there, because that's going to kill your yeast. The next thing that you want to do is take 2 packets of yeast. This is instant yeast, so instant yeast you can actually pour directly into your dry ingredients, but I prefer to do it the old-fashioned way and let it, I guess, cure is what you would call it, in the water. So you're going to take your yeast and you're going to pour it into your water. This was also on sale last week. I know it doesn't do me any good to tell y'all what was on sale the week after, but it was on sale. Start watching your sales papers. And then you are going to take your half a cup of sugar and you're going to pour it in there with your yeast. And you want to mix it up. Get something to mix with. I forgot to get a mixer. Okay, so you're going to mix up your yeast. just till everything's all mixed up. And then you're going to let this sit for about 5 minutes until it starts foaming at the top. So the foaming means that your yeast is alive and it's doing its thing. So we'll be back in about 5 minutes and we'll make the rest of it. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes and our yeast is got quite a head on it. Looks like a cup of cappuccino. So this is good. This means it's eating the sugar and it's working and it's expanding, and yeast just love sugar. So before we start mixing our ingredients together, the one thing that we need to do is turn the stove on to probably about 175 degrees, let it warm up, and then shut it back off, because when we get our bread mixed up, we're going to put it in the oven to rise. Because the other thing that yeast likes besides sugar is it likes heat. So to grow and expand and to make our bread, we need it to be kind of warm, but not enough to cook it. So 175, just until it heats up, and then shut it back off so that we can let our bread rise in a good warm place and the yeast can grow. Okay, so the next thing that we are going to do is put our sugar and our oil into our liquids. And this is not going to be anywhere near big enough. Love the taste of yeast for some reason. I'm weird. We're going to pour this into our bowl. We're going to make sure that we get all of our froth out from our yeast. And then we are going to add 1.5 teaspoons of sugar. Not sugar, salt. Don't put any more sugar in it. It's got enough sugar. 1.5 teaspoons of salt, sorry. One. And here's a half. Y'all, my measuring spoons are so old, they don't tell me what they are anymore. Whenever my kids make something, they're like, Mama, what's a tablespoon? So we have to go through that. And then we are going to put 1/4 cup of oil into our liquid. Alright, now we're going to mix that up just a little bit. And then we're going to start adding flour. Now when you add your flour, you want to do it 1 cup at a time. And then you want to mix it all in really good before you do your next cup. So, still got some more left. I use just regular white flour. All-purpose flour. Don't use self-rising flour because it's already got baking powder in it, so it's already ready to rise for like biscuits and stuff, not for bread making. You can use wheat flour or rye flour or whatever you like, really. But we just like white bread around our house, so we're just going to use all-purpose white flour. And you want to put in about 6 cups of flour, 1 cup at a time. And mix it up after each cup. You don't have to get all the chunks out. Eventually you're going to get them all out anyway. But you just want to make sure it's mixed up and it's not sitting on the top. Oh, that's my oven beeping, so I'm going to go ahead and shut that off and just let it sit warmly. 1/3 cup of flour. Around about the 4th or 5th cup, it's going to get hard to stir. It's going to start getting to be like a dough, actually. I think I'm on number 4. I lost count with all that stirring. Oh, I just threw flour all over the floor. Look, now we're starting to get a dough. Alright, another cup. This is about the time when a good mixer with a dough hook would come in really handy. I don't have one of those, so I have to do it by hand. So hint, hint to my kids if you're watching this, Mama would like a mixer with a dough hook for Christmas. So, now is probably the time, if you don't have a mixer with a dough hook, you're going to get your hands nasty because you can't mix it with a spoon anymore. It's just, this is not working. You have to use your hands. So, to do that, you want to try and minimize the amount of icky you're going to get all over your hands. Put some flour on them. And then start mixing it with your hands. Like I said, you're still going to get icky, just with the flour on your hands, not as badly. Now we stopped at 5 cups, so the more flour you put in here, that's going to be basically your 6th cup. So all this mixing that you're going to do and putting flour on your hands, that's going to give you your 6th cup. And this is also starting to knead it. One of the most important parts of making bread is kneading your bread, because that's what makes all the gluten and stuff active in your bread. Don't ask me what gluten is, I have no idea. But I just know that it's good in bread. probably about another 1/4 cup of flour. And I'm going to knead it. Now when you knead your bread, you want to do it for probably about 10 minutes. Again, mixer dough hook would really come in handy. So what I have to do, because I get bored, is I actually have to set a timer for 10 minutes so that I will knead my bread for 10 whole minutes. I've already got a timer on. Alright, got my timer set for 10 minutes. So I'm going to knead my dough for 10 minutes. I'm going to add more flour as I need to. Like I said, I stopped at 5 cups, so I haven't put my whole 6 cup in here yet. Now when you knead it, you could turn it out onto a counter. Just put some flour down. But to me, that just makes a mess. I can do it in a bowl just as easy as I can do it on a counter. And when you knead it, basically what you're doing is you're pulling up the side and pushing it into the middle. Pulling up your side, pushing it into the middle. And it's going to get really, really rubbery and kind of tough. Too much power in my knee. Alright, I'm not going to make you watch me do this whole kneading thing. So we'll be back in about 10 minutes. And we'll be ready to put it in the oven for our first rise. Okay, so it's been a little bit more than 10 minutes. I ended up having to turn my air conditioner on because with the oven going and then the canner going and me working my butt off to knead this bread, it got a little hot in here. So I did get my bread kneaded. I washed out my bowl. My bread is now sitting on the counter on a floured surface. I know I said I didn't want to do that, but I don't know where my other bowls are. So the next thing that you want to do is take you some olive oil and pour it in the bottom of your bowl. And then I usually take my hand and pull it up to the sides because you want this in an oiled bowl for its rise. If not, it's going to stick to the whole side of the bowl and you're going to have a mess on your hands. The other thing that I like to do is put massage some olive oil onto your dough. Alright, so now we've got our dough in our bowl. And then, let me wash this oil off my hands. Woo, that's hot water. Got really, really hot water in my kitchen. And I pulled a dish towel out of my drawer, and I'm going to wet this dish towel and wring it out. You just want it damp. You don't want it wet. You just want a damp dish towel. And I'm going to put this over top my bowl. And then I'm going to put that in my oven for about an hour. It's going to take it about an hour to rise. So when I bring it out, it's probably going to fill up this whole bowl. So I don't know if you can see it from here. No, you can't really see it. Let me turn you just a little bit. Okay, so I have this fork stuck down in my oven to kind of let some of the heat vent out because it's still a little warm in there. But that's the thing about yeast. Yeast likes a couple of things that yeast likes. One, sugar. It eats sugar. Get off my counter. Two, it likes heat and moisture. So we have given it sugar to eat, and now it is in a warm, moist environment so that it can grow and make our bread huge. I wanted to show y'all real quick. Okay, so this container right here is fermented cabbage that I put up probably about 3-4 weeks ago. It's fermented and it's yummy, but I want to use this container for something else. So I'm going to put my sauerkraut, because that's what fermented cabbage is, it's sauerkraut. I'm going to put it into some canning jars. Not going to seal the jars because you don't really need to seal them. This is preserved perfectly the way it is. But what I do use, instead of using the metal canning lids that come with these jars, they make a plastic jar to put on top of these. So that's what I use when I'm doing like sauerkraut pickles, anything like that. I use one of these plastic lids because, and I have one right here, unless you're sealing these with the salt content and the water and everything that's in like a ferment, this is going to rust. The one thing you don't want is rust in your food. So I prefer to use a plastic lid over these metal canning lids because I don't want any rust getting in my food. So, and I wish y'all could smell this because it smells amazing. I didn't do a garden this year just with everything that was happening. I didn't do a big garden this year. I grew a couple of tomato plants and stuff on my porch. But cabbage was on sale about a month ago, and I think it was like 39 cents a pound, so it was a really good price. So I bought a couple of heads of cabbage and cut them up really thin, threw them down in some water with some salt, made sure I covered it. Now these containers right here you can buy at Walmart. It comes in, I think there's 4 containers. It's a stackable thing. And the really cool things about these is that the lid for the smaller container fits down perfectly in the lid for the bigger container, which is really good if you're going to ferment something, because you want to be able to, and what I do is I'll add a jar. This one I put 2 jars. I'll put 2 canning jars down over the top of it to weight it down, because when you're fermenting something you want all of your food to stay below the liquid. So these things are like $7. You get 4 containers. If you're going to ferment something, rather than going out and spending the money on a fermenting crop, this is a good alternative. Okay. Now you see all these white chunks that's on the top of it? That's not going to kill you. That's let me see if I can get this name right. That is like a lactobacilli, I think. So what that is that is the bacteria that causes the cabbage to ferment, and it's good bacteria, so it's not going to hurt you. If you want to skim it off, you can. You don't have to. I don't. I just stick it down in the jar and be done with it. See if this will work for it. Yes. Look how yummy that looks, and it tastes amazing. And it's still really, really crunchy. It's really good. I love sauerkraut, y'all. I love homemade sauerkraut. A couple weeks ago, everywhere I went and they had hot dogs, I was like, well, do you have sauerkraut for your hot dogs? Nobody puts sauerkraut on hot dogs anymore. I don't know what's wrong with people. But the reason that I don't put these in a canner is because the canner is going to kill all that boiling water is going to kill all the good bacteria that's in this cabbage that's good for your digestive system. So, you're making sauerkraut, don't put it in a canner. And also, if you're going to add it to a recipe, put it in at the very, very end. Like I like to make hot dogs with sauerkraut, and I like pork roast with sauerkraut, Polish sausage and sauerkraut, but you don't want to put the sauerkraut into the very end, because the more you cook it, the more that bacteria you're going to kill. And then it's just going to, I mean, it'll still taste good, I'm sure, but it's not as healthy for you. So, I filled up one of my jars, and I push it down, because you want to still pack it really tight like you were panning it. And then you still want to weight it, because you still want to keep all this cabbage underneath the water. Because if it, with the air, if it comes up over the water, you're going to start getting nasty stuff like molds and stuff, and you don't want that. So to weight it, this is really simple, easy trick here. If I can find them, it'll be a simple, easy trick. I've lost them. I've lost my baggies. They have some very small snack bags that you can get at Walmart. And what you do is you fill that up with water and you stick it in the top, and then you put your lid on top of it, and the bag keeps all the cabbage underneath the liquid. But I can't find my baggies. I'm really upset about it. I got plastic wrap, and I've got, oh, they're right in front of me. Look. Like my mother used to say, if it was a dog, it would have bit me. Only if it was a mean dog, though. I'm not sure about a regular dog. I don't know if a regular dog would bite me. Alright, so water in your bag. You want to get your air out of there. Set your baggie on top, push it down just a little bit. See, now all of your cabbage stays below your water line. You can put your lid on it. Voila! Sauerkraut. Okay, just needed to share that with you because I don't know, I had to do it, so I figured I would share. Alright, so there is our bowl of bread, and look at how full it looks. See how full that looks? So we're going to take it out, bring it over here to the counter, and look at our dough. Okay, so now what we have to do is we have to punch that down and then separate it into 2 bread pans and let it rise a second time. Y'all, look at these little cute bread pans I bought at Walmart. They have got slicing indicators on the bottom of them, so these are pretty cool. Not that I use them, but sometimes the kids will cut bread and they get big, huge hunks. So there's a little line on there now. Hopefully they'll be able to cut along the line and not take half the loaf of bread. Alright, so what you want to do with these is you want to oil these bread pans. I was going to use olive oil, but there is an easier way to do it. the vegetable oil spray that you get from Walmart. Mine is, the top of mine's broke, so I have to pull my bread pan up and spray it. So we've got that done. I'm gonna set these to the side. And I'm gonna get my bread. Now, what you do with this, wash my hands since I just touched the pad. No matter what I do with these cats, they always jump up on my counters. I sprayed them with water. I beat them. I don't know how to keep them down. Okay, my hands are clean again. You're going to punch down your bread. Good, good, good stress relief. Look at that. And it deflates. Just like that. It's done. So we're going to take this, fold it over on itself a couple times, and then we are going to split it into 2 sections because we have 2 loaf pans. So I just wring its neck like this a little bit, and one side falls off. Then you're going to work it kind of until you get what looks like a loaf of bread. I'm not a professional, so. And you're going to put that down in your pan. Like I said, I'm not a professional and I don't like the way it looks. We're going to do it again. Probably not going to look any better the second time. Whatever. When it rises again, all this is going to, all these ugly spots in here is going to flip up and it'll be fine. Doesn't have to be pretty. I'm not putting it in for like a contest. We're just eating this at the house. I haven't figured out how to make the perfect loaf yet. And I always smush it down so that it fills up the whole pan. Okay, so now that that is done, this bowl goes in the sink. We're gonna, I turn the oven back on for a minute. I'm gonna shut it off. And we are going to put these back in the oven with our dish, our wet dish towel over top of them, and let them come to their second rise. And then we'll be ready to bake them. Second rise on your bread should only take about 35-40 minutes rather than the hour it took the first time. Now my hands are all oily again. So really quickly, I just pulled these are my jars of sausage that have been in the canner. The pressure went down so that I could take them out, and now they're sitting out here to cool. But look, they're still cooking in there. They're so hot. How cool is that? And all I did was I browned the sausage, I stuck it in the jar, I added some water to it, and it has made its own broth. So if you ever can meat, it generally makes its own broth. You don't have to add broth to it. So I just thought I would share that with y'all. My bread is ready to put in the oven. I've preheated my oven to 350 degrees, and I'm going to stick this in there for about 35 minutes or so. I have a thermometer that I'm going to use to check it. The internal temperature of the bread should be about 200 degrees, and then you will know it's done. Any more and it's going to be harder, any less and it's going to be doughy. So 200 degrees internal temperature, and our bread will be ready to eat. Okay, so my bread is now at 200 degrees on the internal temperature. I think it took it about probably a half hour or so to cook. So I'm going to go ahead and get that taken out and let it sit on the counter to cool for a little bit, and then we're going to flip it out onto a cooling rack and let it finish cooling all the way before we put it away. So, alright, so just wanted to show you what I was talking about. So I have this, this is a candy thermometer, but it works for bread too, because it goes up to 200 degrees. So we are going to try not to burn ourselves. We're going to stick the thermometer in there and see the temperature is rising, 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 rising. And it is at right at 200 degrees on the inside. So that's when you know your bread is ready to come out of the oven. So let me get a pot holder and we'll go ahead and take that out. Alright, so we're going to let this sit on the counter for probably about 10 minutes or so till it cools off a little bit, and then we'll flip it onto a cooling rack and that'll be it. Yummy homemade bread. It ain't the prettiest, but it tastes better than what you buy at the store, in my personal opinion. Okay, so our bread has cooled off. Now we are going to just flip it out of the pan, set it on this rack to finish cooling off. Nice and soft. And since I can't help myself, I have to have a piece of the bread fresh out of the oven. It's so good. You go on, Charlotte. Look at this bread. It's amazing. That tastes so good. So much better than what you buy in the store. It's amazing. So that is homemade bread. It's so good.